All right, guys, it's now time for the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. And before we take a look at last week's high school football games, we've got a special guest. And speaking of high school football, we have Casey Smith on. He is going to be taking over play-by-play duties at Z92.5 The Castle. He's taken over the microphone for me after almost 40 years. But Casey, we got you in there on Friday afternoon for the second half of that Owasso game. First of all, how did that feel? And are you all ready for Chesaning at New Lothrop Friday night?
I am ready. I will say you scared me a little bit on the drive over because you were like, I've never been more hot in my life. I was sweating through my shirt. I was sweating through my shorts. I was like, what am I getting into in this press box? It's like a sauna, but it was a little cooler. I think you and Bart said that it was a little bit easier, but it was super fun. It was cool getting to see you two guys work. Cause I mean, like you're truly like veterans of radio broadcasting. You've been doing it for forever. How long? It was cool to see you guys just in sync with one another. And I'm super excited to get started and get working.
Well, I think you're going to really enjoy working with Bart. And the one thing you got to be prepared for, he'll throw out references that you'll go, what in the hell are you talking about? Because I don't pick up about half of them. So just roll with it.
Yeah, those will go over my head, but I'll get better.
Is there any sense of maybe worry's not right word, nervousness, having to fill the shoes of, local legend, Z92.5, the sports guy, Ted Patel? Is it kind of hard stepping into the booth knowing that he's walking out?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely hard. Like people are probably going to be like, well, this guy sucks. Like, where'd they find this guy? But I mean, Ted's been super good he's emailed me a bunch of stuff. He's let me sit in on games before. I sat in on a couple basketball games last year. Obviously the football game last week. So he's been nothing but helpful. And I know I just got to learn with time. It's not going to be perfect right away, but got plenty of games to do it. So,
yeah. I think Ted would be the first one. And he has said this on the podcast. When he goes back and listens to his first few games, you almost want to delete them. Everyone, it's a learning curve, obviously. So kind of along those lines, what have you like studied Ted's tapes? We've interviewed Dan Miller. We've interviewed Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, who does play-by-play for the Lugnuts. The guy, Zach Linfield, who called play-by-play for Michigan football last year. So everyone kind of has their way they go about it. What has kind of been your process? Are you just going to go out there and do your thing? Or, did you
No,
study
definitely not winging it. That would not go well. This is going to sound weird. I've thrown on some games at home. It's obviously when I'm home alone, my girlfriend's not home. Because she would think I'm weird. Throw some games on the TV, mute the TV, and then I just kind of call the game as it's happening. Whether that works or not, I don't know, but it gets me at least a little bit more comfortable with like the speed of football, because I'm more used to basketball just because that's what I filled in more a little bit last year. But like the speed of football is just a little different. It's kind of a lot more rapport with you and your partner a little bit. So honestly, yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. And then I've listened to some games from last year that Ted did on the 3-Point Pod replay. So that's helped too, definitely, for sure.
What's the hardest part of announcing a game now that you've kind of dipped your toe in and now you're going full bore at this? What's the hardest part of announcing a game that you didn't realize would be that difficult before you started?
I mean, definitely keeping up with the speed of things. And then also I would say, like, when you watch a game at home and there's a big hit and you're like, oh, whoa, like just being like a mega fan, like kind of gotta be a little more reserved when you're maybe on the radio and things like that.
Right.
And definitely like everyone has biases and stuff that creep in. So just kind of keeping it neutral and giving everyone a fair shake, which is what everyone deserves, really.
Well, you got the right attitude at it. And like I've mentioned to you, I'm certainly not going to be looking over your shoulder. My main tip for you is just be yourself. Pretend you're talking to a blind person. You got to describe everything out there because they can't see what's going on, and you'll figure it out. Like you said, I mean, you'll find your own niche, you'll find your own style. And just a little tip on doing football compared to basketball. Basketball, you're just going from each side of the court up and down, trying to keep up with the action. In football, you'll find yourself to be trying to call the play right as it's going on, but you'll find it be more effective if you just are a beat behind the play, so you can watch it and then describe it. That's about the only tip I'm going to give you.
Yeah, I know you've said that before, that you just kind of let things happen, and then if you're a couple seconds behind, people at home can't tell. They're not watching live.
Exactly right.
That's what blows my mind about the guys on TV, like the really good guys on TV. Like they're on it the second stuff is happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to think about you see cameras often get faked out by a triple option, so because they're trying to follow the action as it happens. So that's an interesting tip from Ted. I hadn't really ever thought about it. The kind of because you don't want to be calling out, oh, he hands the ball off over the right tackle, and next thing you know, they're going over the left tackle up the sidelines for a touchdown, and you're like, wait, never mind, they're actually going the other way. So you don't want to do that. Where's the interest come from? Like, you obviously you're a teacher at Corona. We'll probably get into it a little bit, but you're in the band Shiatown, who, you guys have been on the podcast before. You have other interests, obviously. Is this just kind of a hobby, or have you always kind of wanted to get into this?
I mean, it's always been cool, like seeing Ted and then his partner during the basketball season is my dad, Joe Smith. So it's always been cool kind of just seeing them like be around high school sports and stuff. And it definitely like just gets you involved in the community a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, Ted goes to any high school sporting event, and how many people do you know? 50? Like you just know everybody. Like my dad's the same way. He'll go to a basketball game and he knows, the people that are there all the time. And so like that kind of started it. And then I don't know, it was probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Ted reached out and just said, hey, like when I'm done doing this, is this maybe something you'd be interested? And I never really thought of it, but it's like, yeah, you know what? I think that would be kind of cool. So past couple of years kind of been getting my feet wet a little bit, jumping in on some games here and there. If I wasn't into it and if I didn't like it, I would have told Ted like, this really isn't for me. I'm just going to, you can find someone else, but it was something I really enjoyed right from the start. So it was kind of a perfect fit.
He's doing a great, and I say this all kind of a little bit sarcastically, but I'm gonna say it anyway. He's doing a great job bringing you in kind of under your wing. But is there kind of a part of you that there's sort of like a haze hanging over this season, knowing that like he can't, he's going to jump in on games when he wants to. He's coming to the big games, and now the ones that aren't big games.
Corona games now. Corona games.
Is there a cloud over this year, knowing that you kind of got Joe Paterno on his like one last season on his way out?
Joe Paterno.
Oh, are you calling me saying?
Or whoever it was, McGloin or whatever it was that took. I don't even remember the guy's name. That wasn't the right comparison. Is there a sense of like just he's kind of waiting in the wings behind you? Are you excited for the days when you can kind of spread your wings and fly and form your own thing at the Castle? As much as you appreciate his guidance now, are you looking forward to those days?
I mean, looking forward, I guess, yeah, like when I'm, 5 years down the road, but like he's done a good job of like I said, he has all the contacts. So he's emailing the ADs, the coaches, hey, like, can we get your rosters? Here's what we need. Here's when we'll be there. So I just kind of get to show up, call the game, and let him worry about all that stuff, which is nice for now, me being, new to it all.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to it, Casey. I know that the microphone will be in good hands, so looking forward to listening. Especially, you got a good matchup, Chesaning and New Lothrop right out of the gate Thursday night. So I won't be looking over your shoulder. I won't be in the box, so you are on your own for that one. Now, another thing that you're very comfortable with is obviously drummer of Shiatown. You guys have really got a great reputation out there, and you've got a huge September coming up. Talk about the band a little bit.
Yeah, we're just coming off of the month of June, July, and August. We had about 20, 21, 22 shows. So we were super busy this summer playing some like super awesome gigs. We just played at MIS a couple weeks ago for the NASCAR race. That was like peak, the highest we'll ever get, like in my opinion. It was awesome. The crowd was like literally in the palm of our hand. Like it was an awesome experience, like something that like a lot of like you guys both played sports at a really high level, like the crowd just feeding off of you. Like it was like that to a T. Like anything we did, they were just feeling it, and it was awesome. And then this September we have 8 or 9 shows in September. We're going to Arts Beats and Eats next Sunday, like the Sunday of Labor Day, which is a huge festival in Royal Oak. There's like 12 stages. It goes on all day. We played there last year. We're back there again. It's always nice when people want you back. You feel like you feel like you're doing well. And then from there we go to Pittsburgh, where we're there for 3 nights, playing at a bar down there that we've played before. Pitt Panthers are home. I can't remember who they're playing, but they're home that Saturday. We'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then one of our biggest shows of the year that we've played 2 years in a row is Big Country Fest in Frankenmuth, which is Saturday, September 30th, I think is the day. And that's like 3,000 people at Frankenmuth in the pavilion over there. And that's like honestly one of the highlights of our year because it kind of ends the summer cycle for us where we kind of take some time off, but it's like one of the higher points of our touring schedule, I guess you could say.
What was the MIS show like? Because I've been there for Faster Horses when it's just like a DJ and people are going nuts over that. And I saw the pictures, I saw the video. It looked like one hell of a party. Was it the rowdiest crowd you've ever performed in front of? Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. Before we even started, we had guys coming up to us saying, you're the band tonight, right? And we were like, yeah. And they're like, so we'll run security. We'll make sure people aren't going too crazy. And we're like, we're used to playing, kind of bars and stuff where people aren't going too crazy. And we're like, yeah, whatever. I'm glad they were there because people were on each other's shoulders like the second we started, and people were running around, climbing up on the gate, trying to get up onto the stage. It was pretty nuts, but at the same time, you kind of love that. Like you want them to be feeling it. You want them to be into the music. And, it's a super cool environment down there. I've never been down there except for the state cross country meet. So seeing it for what it's like truly meant to be, like a NASCAR party kind of atmosphere, it was awesome.
Yeah. Not to take anything away from that, but it's crazy to think that like at its peak in like, whatever the 80s, mid 90s, when they had stands all the way around the whole track. Think about how many people were there back then compared to now. I'm not taking anything away from what you were talking about, but
So have you guys ever been to a NASCAR race?
Yeah, I've mentioned it on here before. I've been to MIS, the August race. I don't know, 10 or more times, quite a few times.
Oh,
he also picked up bottles afterward when he was a kid.
Yeah,
you missed that on the pod a few weeks ago,
which Jared doesn't do anymore, by the way.
That was probably the highlight.
Jared has some hot takes on this podcast.
Let's call them hot takes.
Let's call them takes.
I was going to ask you though, kind of along those lines. You mentioned like that MIS maybe would be your guys' peak. Shiatown. We know how it goes, with this podcast, even we will have jobs, Ted's trying to retire, but you can only put so much time into it. Kind of the same with you guys in Shiatown. When you play a place like MIS, when you go to Pittsburgh and you play Frankenmuth and all those other places, do you guys ever have conversations of like, what if we go like full time at this and like you quit as a teacher, don't, everyone go full time. Is there ever a conversation like that? Or are you guys kind of cool with where you're at?
No, we're cool with kind of taking the band as big as we can while keeping our normal day jobs, our normal, day-to-day living. Like, the two guys in the band, they work for IPS, which is a propane company out of Byron. I mean, they service like all of the Midwest, honestly, and down into Florida and Texas and all those places. So, I mean, they're busy too. They got full-time jobs. Our guitar player, he's like a full-time HVAC consultant. Like he's down traveling all the time too. And then our bass player, Troy, he works for Baker, doing a bunch of different stuff for them. So we all have pretty busy day jobs, but we usually can find, one day a week or one day every other week to get together. And then show days, we block off that weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of like the question that was asked of me before, did I ever want to go into broadcasting full-time as a profession? Sure, I would have loved to, but, you got to do a lot to make a career and make the kind of money that I was able to make, in my real job. So I get it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it because you guys have your own niche, like I talked about with Shiatown, and you're definitely one of the more popular bands in mid-Michigan and maybe one of the more popular country bands probably in the state, I would guess,
Yeah. I mean, we like not to, toot our own horn or whatever, but our Glenn, our one of our singers, he kind of does the booking for us. His phone rings nonstop. Like if we wanted to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every weekend of every year, we could. Not really something we're interested in at this time right now, but like, we appreciate that we have that kind of connection with people.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, stick with us. Before we send you out of here, we're going to wrap up this prep spotlight once again, brought to you by Jacobs Insurance Agency, with a look at the games from last weekend. We had a wild start to the season with the weather situation, tornadoes rolling in, all kinds of crazy weather Thursday night. Even had a delay in the Owasso game on Friday, but you're going to be starting out up at New Lothrop, and they picked up a very impressive win over Muskegon Catholic, 34-20. Clint Galvis, just an outstanding coach. You're going to love talking to him as you go along. Off to another great start.
Yeah, the train keeps rolling for New Lothrop. It's kind of all you can say. They just win.
We talk. Oh, go ahead.
No, I have something. I know you're going to roll into Corunna and some other schools.
Yeah.
I just have kind of an overarching topic that I'm wondering what you guys think. So the big thing that a lot of schools do on this opening weekend every year is they'll play kind of a neutral site game. A lot of teams play at Lawrence Tech. A lot of teams play at the Big House. That's the big one.
Atwood Stadium.
Atwood, right. And I couldn't help but notice, so Northville, the Mustangs, pick up maybe their biggest win in school history. They beat Clarkston, who just last year made it all the way to the semifinals. They beat them in the biggest game in school history, and I just can't help but think that it's a missed opportunity that they didn't play this game at Northville High School and on a Friday night in front of the entire hometown, where they had to travel all the way to Ann Arbor. And they probably brought a decent crowd, but you just look around at the highlights of it, and there's nobody there because it's the Big House. They're obviously not going to fill it. So I hate these neutral site games, but I have a feeling that, as you guys were laughing about my takes earlier, I have a feeling that I'm kind of in the minority on that. What do you guys think? Are you, Matt, you're kind of the big Michigan fan, so I think you might love this idea of playing a game at the Big House. What do you think?
If I could have had the opportunity as a high school football player to play at the Big House, I would say that would have been really cool. But I'm definitely with you to think about what you just described for that high school, that community, to be able to see that win on their field. That would have been really cool. I think of it too as like, all the college matchups. I'm definitely kind of out on the neutral games in college because, think about, a while ago, yeah, Michigan got blown out, but when they played Alabama with, when they had Denard Robinson at Jerry World, where the Cowboys play, yeah, Michigan got blown out, but that would have been really cool to either have Alabama come up to the Big House or for Michigan to go to Tuscaloosa and play, at Alabama's field. That would have been really cool. So some of these neutral field games, I just think, yeah, you're losing that feeling of on campus or for high school, for that community. Now, like this coming up weekend, North Carolina, South Carolina, they're playing at Bank of America Stadium where the Panthers play. That's a little different because, North Carolina, South Carolina is so close. That actually is kind of cool for them. So it'd be like if Michigan and Michigan State played at Ford Field, that's not as big of a deal. But I'm definitely with you. I'm kind of out on the neutral field thing. Now, again, as a high schooler, it'd probably be pretty cool to play at the Big House.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, if I was a player and had the opportunity to play at someplace like Michigan or at Michigan State, I'm all in. But for the fans, I agree with you. There's nothing like being on your home field underneath the lights, man. It's just awesome. We've talked about that before. Hey, being Corunna graduates, we all played football at Corunna, the three of us anyway. And, we've hyped them. Hopefully we haven't hyped them too much. Some people might think so.
Some have told me that. Some have told me that, but which is because we're such big fans and we're all Corunna alums, like you said.
Yeah, we're not going to deny it for sure. But they jumped out to a nice 40-0 win over Fowlerville. 3 quarters, they called off the fourth quarter because of the weather. And, we've talked about it before. We're looking forward to watching them. And I'm sure you're looking forward to calling their games, Casey.
Yeah, those are we were talking about it on the air the other day, but we have, I think 9 regular season really good games and then leading into the playoffs. But those Corunna games are the 3 ones that I'm kind of most looking forward to because, it's getting to the point where a lot of those kids that are playing I had in class.
Right.
So it's kind of cool being able to see them actually, compete and play on the football.
And you'll know
field.
the names, which is nice. You'll really want to study as much as you would other games.
That helps. That helps a lot. It really does.
And it's the energy thing too. I mean, we've talked about it with Shep, who's calling, the Tigers right now for Bally Sports. And, not to get into that whole topic, but we've said part of maybe his criticism is that the Tigers have just kind of stunk for the last few years. So it's kind of hard as the play-by-play to really get into it when your team is 150 games under 500 or whatever. Now, you know, you go to Nick and East Field and you've got a legitimate state title contender with Corona. There's going to be some extra energy. And then, yeah, you know, the kids and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that adds to it. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, some of the other games, just touch upon them. Langsburg with a big win over Duran. You know, Langsburg's starting quarterback, who's an outstanding athlete, Ty Randall, out for the year. So they've downed the Railroaders out of the gate just to start the season without him. Chesaning lost by 4 to Bath, 26-22. But I'll end this segment here with Owasso. The Trojans downed Eaton Rapids 48-12, running clock. You got a chance to see them in the second half, Casey. You know, my perspective is this is definitely going to be a much improved team that Ron Tyner looks like that maybe he can build upon something there. Their line looks solid. They have good skill players. You know, it's still going to be tough in the Flint Metro for sure, but he's taken a step forward. And like he said last year, he considers that not his first year, not year one. That was year 0. Just taking over the reins, getting to know the kids. And this is really his first year now that he has the program going. And I see good things for Owasso.
Yeah. I mean, you can go fast.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, from everything I was listening to your guys' broadcast on both Thursday and Friday, the number one thing, and I think the biggest reason why they've had this turnaround, and you kind of buried the lead, Ted, is the new helmets. They got rid of the clip art Trojan. Now they bring in the Owasso script. Not the sharpest looking helmet, but it's infinitely better than what it has been the last 5 or 6 years. So just in that sense, I think this is already a program on the rise.
There you go.
Yeah, you can definitely tell just like when 3 or 4 of those guys get the ball, they just move a little bit different than Owasso really has in the past.
Right.
Well,
that's
it's going to be a fun.
They need to build the program. I mean, they need to get some positivity going. That program was kind of in the dumps for a little bit, so they just need to get some positivity going.
Yeah, their last decade has definitely been on the bottom end. So steps forward, and I think they've made that right move with the coach they have now. Looks like the players are buying into it, and that's what it's all about, you know. And you just stick with it and keep it rolling for the next couple of years till you develop that program. Well, Casey, we're looking forward to your play-by-play debut coming up Thursday night, Chesaning at New Lothrop. Appreciate you joining us here on 3 Point Podcast and the Prep Spotlight, and the best of luck to you. And if you ever have any questions, give me a holler, but I'm not going to be offering too much advice.
and if you want,
only if you ask for it.
And if you want a good laugh, you should listen to my one and only play-by-play debut on Z925 The Castle. It was actually Chesaning versus New Lothrop, about 60-0 after the first quarter. That's the worst play-by-play that's ever been done on those airwaves. So you can't be any worse than that. So whatever.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
All right, Casey. We'll see you later.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding area since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, they've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and Noah Jacobs working for you. Jacobs Insurance Agency is a big supporter of our area schools and our sponsor of the Prep Spotlight, with offices in Waterford and in Owasso on M21 just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by one of their industry pros. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's the Jacobs family working together to protect yours. Jacobs Insurance Agency.